Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for having me, first of all. And I think this is not really the typical demonstration. We will do very little turning. But what I thought we would do, though, is we would talk a little bit about what you can do with basket illusion. There's quite a few things that you can do. And we're always looking for ways of making our pieces a little more attractive and give it a little bit more unique thing. And I think this is a good opportunity to use to add a little color. I'm pretty much traditional in the sense that I don't like to work with a lot of color. I mean, especially if I have a good piece of wood, I feel it's a sacrilege to put, color and dye on it. But sometimes just to have a little touch, a little band or something, especially when you have a large piece. I find I do a lot of large stuff. You have a lot of surface, and you look at it, and something is not quite right. I mean, it's just, you know that something is wrong, but you don't know what it is. And I found that having the opportunity to put a few lines in there, having put a little color, it kind of breaks the thing up and gives it more balance. So I think that's one of the things I would like to talk to you about a little bit more. We just discussed the basket illusion. I'm sure some of you have done it already, and you may even have a better way to do it than I have. I have done basket illusion for about 3 or 4 years. This is my first piece that I did, and it's basically.
It actually looks like fiber when you look at it from the way you've designed it.
Yeah.
And textured it.
It's I think that the thing about, I'm going to tell you this right now. If you don't have the patience, and if you don't have time to give it, don't start. Because to get quality out of it, there's only one way to do it, and it's to do it right. I mean, yeah, you can do it, and I'll show you some crap in there, because I have one that I put a lot of the crappy stuff on it. I'll show you what it looks like. And the thing is, you have to start with the premise that you're going to give it the time that is required, because that's the only way you're going to be happy at it. I mean, you're going to throw it on the side and you'll never do it again. But I think it is worth learning because it has other potential, as we talked about. I think you've got to basically have a few tools. I was asked about the index wheel, and the index wheel is just really a unit that allows you to have a number of segments that you need for the vessel. So this is a good investment. You don't need it absolutely. If you're going to do a band like this, you can get away with it. You can take a compass, and if you have the patience, again, if you have the patience to do this, you should have the patience to do that. You can actually, this is a certain size, and if you want 90 segments, you divide that size out by 90, and you just take your caliper and you put it on. And when I say caliper, I mean caliper. I don't mean guessing. This is something that you don't guess. You have to measure it, and you have to, bring it all the way around. But this is one of the investments that you make. They're not very expensive. There are so many people make it now, and it's worth its weight in gold. It fits right behind the chuck. You take the chuck up, you slide the wheel right on. Chuck goes back on and secures it, and then give it a little tension on it. You don't want the thing to come loose when you're doing things. It doesn't have to be that tight, but it has to be secure. And then you have to have a reference point. And here again, you can buy what they sell, or you can make your own. Very inexpensive. You secure the thing to the lathe, and you have a little pin that fits inside the hole, and you put wood has a little tension on it anyway. You don't need a spring on it, and this works extremely well. This was done with one of these, so it doesn't have to be necessarily. So this is something that you can look at. I'm sure all of you can make it. And the purpose of that is to stop each hole that you decide. Whatever number you decide, whatever row, you stay with a row. And again, you gotta have the patience and you have to have the desire to do it right. So you should set things up, and once you set them up, whether it's an expensive thing like that or not, it should be in the right spot with the right angle on it, so you don't screw yourself up and go to the next one and make mistakes on it. But those are probably the few things that you need. In addition to, you need the bead cutting tool, because you're cutting this bead, this horizontal bead, and they make those in different sizes. They make it 1/8, they make it 3/16, make it 1/4. I don't think you buy all of them. If you start going into the larger bead, you can actually measure the bead. You can take a compass, make a mark, and then use a very thin tool and just make your beads. If you're willing to do it, it can be done. I've done a couple of pieces like that. It can be done. It's not that complicated. But if you have a beading tool, life is so much easier. And I'll show you the beading tools, what they look like. That's about it. The next thing that you need is the burner. All of us have a burner for some other reasons. And here I think you can get pretty fancy. You can buy the tips that come with the burners, and they make a tip that matches the bead. You have an 8, it's actually a curve. I'll show you if you can see this. They're basically like this. They're a little like that.
Okay.
You see it? And that actually goes right into the groove, and you can actually I haven't had very much good luck with those. They burn out quickly. They're not reliable. It seems like the temperature, they're probably not done properly yet. They don't have enough experience on it. And so what happens is they get hot and they burn too much. Actually, you see smoke on the bead. When you finish, it builds up, and that affects your color when you paint it in. So they do make them. You can try them, and probably you'll be more successful than I have been. But I take a standard knife blade, the blade string on it, and I just grind off just a slight air on the side so I can go from one side to the other. Like that, just making a smart thing. Especially when you do a larger one like that, make sure that you put that little fork in there all the time right. It's not quite easy. If you don't have it just right, the thing will go across and will make it nice at the wrong move. But then what you actually need for this, you need a sled of some kind to keep it flat. You can do the marking with a pencil, take the bowl off, sit down in a nice easy chair, take your pen in your hands, and just mark it. You don't have to use a sled. I mean, it's not necessary. But when you do something big like this, or you have something straight out like that, it's nice to have a sled. And the sled is just a place where you can match up your level, line the cutting blade right horizontally to where the blade sticks. This goes right into the tool rest. And once you have it sitting there, you can start from one end and go all the way up. You'll be on the same plane. So you're just sliding that over and you're burning the mark all the way up. And then you move over the industrial one and you do it all the way around. And it's a long way all the way around, I can tell you that. It takes a long time to get across. But again, in order to do it and to get the result you want, you gotta have things like this, because this speeds it up, but it gives you the accuracy that you need to be even all the way across. Again, they make this thing metal, nice aluminum, but a shaft, 1-inch shaft, drill a hole, epoxy, take some wood, and you can make them. And here, this right here, I can change all the time for the shape. Sometimes it goes from one side on the other. I have it on the left and the right. I have different shapes. And the more of this you do, and the more you take to what you need. So, as you see, there was really not that much to invest into, except the cutting unit. You got to match your design to the bowl. If you do in an open basket, you got to decide what you want it to look like. And there are samples of designs that, galore. You can go to YouTube, you can find all kinds of Western design, Indian design, African design. So, but I kind of like to fiddle around and do my own thing. So what I usually do is, I think, make a grid and I play around with it. If I see something, I make a note and say, hey, I'd like to, or if I see a basket that I really like, colors and the combination and the design, the pattern, I just make some notes on it, and then I make myself a grid, and I work it out on paper. Because this way, you don't do all that work and then you find that you're not right. You gotta again, before you start on a design, before you start on a number of segments that you're gonna do, you have to determine whether the design fits on the number of segments that you have. And that's why you have so many different variations in here. If you have a design that requires, like for instance, from here to here, when it starts repeating, if it is 5 segments, then you gotta have a number of segments around that divides by 5, so that you can come all the way around and, so it's very simple, really. But it's gotta be right, because otherwise you wind up with the thing just not matching up on the other side. So you're doing a design that follows all the way around the other side. Same way with this. It just continues, repeats. But if you haven't figured it out, this one will be short or longer than it should be, or whatever. It's not going to work out. So that is the first things that you have to establish before you go on it. The next thing that you should be thinking about is invest into some felt tips that are the right thing. You don't want to use just a magic marker. You don't want to use something like that, because once that thing is on there, you want it to retain that color. And you want to be able to spray a coat of clear on top to keep it from messing up. And if you don't have the right ink pen on it, that thing will start, spray lacquer on it, that thing will start. You're doing all this work and all of a sudden the thing screws up. And this is not like, something on a surface on a bowl that you can just clean it up. I mean, you don't. I mean, that thing is done. I mean, you're set. I mean, the grooves are there. You're locked in. So you don't want to fool around and make a mistake on it. Normally, fiber Castell, and I buy my stuff at Blick. I don't know for sure if you guys have a Blick on this part of the country here. Down south.
Schaumburg or down?
You probably have somebody else that sell them, but fiber Castell, and they're called archival pens, because the ink is designed to stand up pretty well to. Show you.
Because you're worried about bleaching from light too, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you want the color to stay where it's at. Here, this is the kind of pen that you can pass it along. And
So you guys go to Blick?
yeah, I get mine at Blake, but art supply stores should have them. Or I don't know exactly. Office supply, some good office supply stores may have them as well. You can order them online. They're $1.25, $1.50, someplace in that area. And they come basically to two tips on it. One tip is very fine, and you'll need that to get the edges of that little square. And then you have one that has a felt tip. It's more like a brush, and that can do the filling. But if the segments are not large, small segments, that won't work. The little ones is the only one that can do this. So the little one and the big one are necessary, but the little one is more necessary than the big one. You don't need the many colors. I mean, you can do some simple, take a look at this. I mean, there's not that much here, but it's effective. I mean, and you need the contrast. You need something that works with the wood, because you'll have a certain amount of color in the wood, so you want to somehow think about that as well. Something that blends in nicely on it. Now, there are a few things that you have to do when you do the bead work. After you actually cut the bead, and we'll cut a few beads there and I'll show you. You want to burnish, somehow burn or burnish the depth of where the trench is between the two beads. And the reason why you want to do that is, first of all, you want to refine. It's going to be dark, hopefully. If you use, I got some formica and small little strips like that, and I shave it off a little bit, and I put it in, and I have it spinning, and I put that thing in, and I burn the bottom of the trench. You want to do that again to get the separation of color, but you also, what you're doing is you're burnishing that bottom so that when you put the ink in there, it will stop. It will not go. It will right to that point, it will stop. It will not travel. It will give you a better definition. Color will stay, the marker will be good. The other thing that you want to do is when you set yourself up, when you make things for it, and when you prepare things for it, and when you chuck things, make sure that everything is nice and solid. When you don't want to have the index wheel moving on you. You don't want to have a situation where you start the marking with the sled on the banjo, and if it's not tight properly, and the thing loosens up on you, by the time you get around here, you've done one side, maybe it's lasted, and all of a sudden it will go on the inside, and what happens? It's soft, it doesn't meet. So those are the little things. What I mean is you have to think about it, set it up, make sure that everything is tight, and things like that. And once you've done that a few times, it will be a little bit easier. The other thing that you probably want to do is use some material that is a little bit harder, like maple, a little bit lighter. This way the color shows up better. You don't have a lot of stuff on the wood that interferes with the... and when you do the beads, you probably should, this is just the beginning basically, is you should start by doing the first 2 inches. Leave some weight on the wood on it so you don't have vibration on it, because you want, the better the bead surface is and the better the product would look like. So if you have the thing vibrating on you because you've already took everything away and the thing is not holding, that bead is not going to look as good. So do the outside, do the inside, and just do the first 2 or 3 beads, clean up the next one, do the next 2 beads, and then finish it up all the way through. This way you get a nice solid separation of the beads, and then it look nice. Besides that, there's nothing else. Everything else is pretty straightforward. We show you the beading tools, and then we'll probably run.
Is there a particular lacquer that you use to keep that for the runoff? Keep it from causing it to bleed? Or just any lacquer?
No, the lacquer is just the top coat, clear top coat, to keep it from smearing and getting your hands on it. After you're finished. But normally you put the thing on with I don't even put sanding sealer on, nothing on it. I do raw woods because when the ink goes into the raw woods, it just soaks it in nicely and sticks it in. So
So you use a spray lacquer to seal it?
that's it, the last one. After my thing is over, all finished. It's all finished, you put a coat of clear spray lacquer. And normally I use a matte finish rather than just a, shiny. I mean, yeah, you don't want it to shine too much. I mean, it's just, you want to keep it, I haven't tried to put something that shines, and I don't think it would look good, but probably can try that. These are the beading tools, and you can pass them around and you see. They make them in different kinds, different shapes too. Not only that, but those are the ones that I have and work very well. Here's a couple more that look a little bit different.
Are those D-way tools? D-way?
I don't know who makes these. I've had these for some time. I don't know who makes.
Oh, sorbet.
Those two, the other ones,
Actually, the other ones I think are D-way.
yeah, those probably, those are the ones. Nice thing about that is it has those little tips, little wing tips. You put one inside the one that you just made, and that keeps them,
Space.
and speak space properly. And you really, if you're doing something really accurate, it's nice to be able to mark them. Just mark them so that come up. Especially when you get toward the end where you want to stop, and you have a spot where you want to stop. Then you have to make sure that you just space it out properly. That'll be great. As a matter of fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the index wheel right now on, and we'll leave it there. There's a little bit of burr here, a little bit of burr on the shaft, but
I have some of those from
should be
D-way.
cleaned up a little bit. Okay, so I just hit it a little bit so that it stays nice and tight. This way, when we use the unit later, we're not going to have it move on us.
As the diameter of your vessel gets smaller, the little segments have to get smaller too. How
Yes.
do you accommodate that? Just the straight lines take care of that?
Well, they actually index wheel. You're working on a horizontal line, so as soon as when you move the thing up, the fact that the circumference changes automatically
Yeah, okay.
gets down into
As long as the ring on the outside edge or the biggest diameter is right, you're good.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to check through this up a little bit because it comes from a different chuck, and then we'll try the beading tool on him, okay? Thank you. No, it's not too bad. All right, let me use this. Sure. It's not that critical, the surface, because you're going to be using the beading tool. The beading tool is going to make its own surface, but you want to be as close as possible on it.
It appears to be a spindle gout.
You want to leave a little bit thicker wall on this kind of a unit, because it's not like a bowl. You need a little space for the grooves to be cut in, so you don't want to make it too thin. Otherwise, you're going to start having a little problem. So I'm going to just check it. I'm not going to sand it. I'm just going to go ahead and run some beads in there so that you guys see what the process is. I'll do a couple of them on the outside, and then I'll do a couple of them on the inside. Normally you think, this is the way the thing will go, but actually this one works this way. You take where the little knife edges are, you put them right against the tool rest, and you put a lot of pressure on it because you want the thing to stay nice and flat on it. And then you approach the thing this way. So, and you go a little bit higher than the center, okay? Right there. And you can tell if you're too high or too low by just the noise that the cutter makes. So let's try it out and see what you... Okay, normally what I would do is I would make the first indentation, make 2 or 3 indentations so that I know that I'm going the right direction, and I'm going to have the right space. This gives me a line to follow. Okay? So, and then I can just go ahead and start making some. look at the top surface of the cutter, you'll see that it will start cutting on the edges, and then slowly you'll start cutting more and more and more. When you see that the center of the cutting is starting to kick some wood, you're done. You don't want to go any deeper than that. Okay? And then you go to the next one. Again, pressure down on the tool rest. That's it. That's it. So once you have it set up, once you have the surface prepared, it doesn't take long to get this part. The part that takes a long time is the burning and the coloring. So doing the inside is basically the same process. And again, you want to set up the tool rest so that you have the right angle to the surface of the bowl. And you adjust that accordingly. So you want both tips to hit the surface at the same time.
Do you measure that the insides match up with the outsides, the grooves?
Not
or-
really, no. I mean, especially something just small.
Uh-huh.
You just look at the thing, and especially, and this is really the reason why I put the upper lip and I put the string around it.
Yeah.
So if there is any difference, it kind of disappears. Kind of,
Yeah, I was wondering if it even
Yeah.
makes a difference.
it's not that. I mean, you wouldn't.
You can't match it up.
Yeah, you wouldn't really see it because I mean, if you were to come all the way out, you probably would. And you could, and most guys that do this, what they'll do is they'll take a larger beading tool and make a large bead on the top, and then they go on both sides of that.
Okay.
I don't like that. I mean, myself personally, but nothing wrong with that.
Right.
And then if you do that, then you pretty much have to be right on, where that groove ends,
But just for the top one.
the top one. That's all. And I think right now what I'm trying to do is now, basically what I'm doing now is I'm looking at it and I'm setting it there, and I probably will make, again, the mark and then look at it. Now, you could measure it. You could measure, but I don't know whether it visually makes so much difference.
Right, right.
Yeah. The easier the tool rest is set up for, and I have, I'll show you some tool rest that I have in there for some of the larger bowls I have bent, so that once you set it up, then you can go all the way around, without having to move it. But in this particular case, it's a small little unit, you can get away with it. So let's try. Let's see. See, basically what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to line up this so that it is exactly the way I want it in relation to the surface of the bowl at that particular spot.
Perpendicular.
Yeah. And again, make sure that you have everything tight, because if you don't and you start on it, the thing will start shaking and you ruin the whole area so you have to start cleaning up again. So everything has got to be nice and tight so that when the groove goes exactly where you want it to go. I'm assuming. If you're there, yeah. And I put it right behind it. I'm gonna write it. Just do the rest a little bit. Now that we have the first inch done, I would start cleaning out the material and get ready for the next down below. So really, there really is no big mystery about how this works. It's just to have it ready, have it nice the shape that you want, and have it reasonably good shape. Doesn't have to be, again, you don't have to sand it. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't recommend sanding it because some of the sanding stuff will stay there and will ruin your cutters. So just stay with raw wood, and if you have a decent set of bead cutting units, you'll get a nice surface, and that's where the material makes a difference too. Like this box elder is so soft that it doesn't work as well. Yeah.
You would finish the outside first. Like now you just did part of it.
Yeah.
Do you do part of the outside, then part of the inside, part of the outside, part of the inside, or?
Well, I think again, depending on the size,
Okay.
I would think that this one right here, you could do the whole thing, do the whole thing all the way in, and then start on the inside and then take the next couple inches. And you could technically, from this point on, you can go all the way in, and then do all of it at one time.
Oh.
So in fact, I think let's do a little bit of that, and so we can see. It's not that much. When the larger you get, and the more it makes a difference. But
Right.
you want to leave a certain amount of thickness, more so than a regular bowl would be. That's a little thinner than normally the basket we should go on anyway. Because you expect the basket to be a little bit thicker. I mean, that's the way visually, you expect it to be that way. Okay, let me just get this down a little bit more, and then we can put a few more. And it's just a matter of repeating, so it's not that anything there that. we'll make a few more grooves and then we'll look at it. Okay, for practical purposes, that's good enough. Assuming that we did decide the number of lines we want, and we got that figured out, and that fits our design that we want. So we would be ready to try this out. So I'm just gonna set it up in there like that, and just get the thing so that you can see what is involved in getting ready. Okay, what I've done here is I've taken a regular burning pen and I made a little jacket for it. I flattened one end so that it rides over the sleds, and that's what I call the sled. Okay, and then I can move it and change positions on it if I need to. Let's see, I'm gonna be going. I want to do the inside, so let me. Now what I want to do is I want to set this right in center. Right there. Then it gives me the best line, and then that stays put. We just turn the bowl now. Nothing changes from this point on. Everything has got to be tight and stays there. Okay. So, assuming that that's what we want to do, I'll take it. Turn this on. And you don't want to burn too much. Just you try it out. This is our test piece anyway. We can try it on here. But you want to just get the mark. And as soon as it starts getting the right amount of temperatures to make the mark, you want to stop. Okay. One thing that I forgot to show you, and we talked about it very briefly, but I didn't show you, is you got to really do a little kind of burning and cleaning up the groove at the bottom of the thing. And again, I said I didn't bring some of the formica that I use for myself. Would you have some?
You want to burnish that ring?
Yeah. What I'm doing is I'm just sort of rubbing it high speed and using the tip to burn up, to kind of burn up the bottom of the. Does that show in the picture? Okay. You can see that some of these would have to be tailored. That's why the sled is all messed up like that. You make it to fit the particular unit that you're doing. Okay, so now you have it, say hole number 1, and you just and repeat. So that's basically it. You got to go all the way around, and by having the index wheel, you'll come all the way around and you'll be right on the right spot. Now, if something loosens up in here, you'll have problems, and it'll show up. I mean, even if it's off a little bit, it'll show up. Your eye will catch it. So it's important to have everything nice and tight. But now that creates the little square that you're going to be playing with as far as design is concerned. So you see, there's no mystery on it. It's just that it has to be done, and you need the time to do it, and you need the time to do it right. Because the better you do this, and the better the looks of the color, the image, and everything else on it. And it'll be believable. If it was not, it's kind of contradicting in a way, because basket weaving is sort of, is never that precise anyway. So you don't want to be too extra thing on as far as the actual inking is concerned. But if you're off a lot, you'll see. If especially on the design. If the design doesn't match up on the other side, you can't get away with it. It just has to be right.
Do you ever do the inside and the outside burning at the same time?
No, normally I do the outside, and then I change sled, then I do the inside. Technically, if everything is tight and everything is okay, you could do move it around, because this stays pretty flat as long as you don't move this.
Right.
But it's pretty hard to kind of bring it around and not to change the level. It's nice to just set it up on that particular thing on it. Now you can always go back. Now if you, for some reason, you move or something, you can always go back, reset it by the mark that you made, before, wherever you left off. You can do that, and you can get away with it. But I don't think there's any benefit in doing both of them at the same time. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, when you have items like this, for instance, here, what you have this one chucked in here, you have this one, guided to this point. Normally, what I do after I do the groove, I use a burning wire. Does a beautiful job. It's got the right thickness wire, and you burn, and that gives you that nice mark, nice and solid on it, and it defines really defines it. So it's easier than using the little wedge on it. What I like about this, again, what this can do is can make sort of an average thing look a little bit different, look unique. You can give it look like that comes out of the West now. It's got a Western design on it. So you can do that, and you can make it unique. Other things that you can do with this, which I think I want you guys to think about, is this is nothing else than that, in a different form, different shape. You make a ball, you have a little pressure cup. This is my baseball pressure cup. Put it on, and you make your grooves accordingly. You know, you just put your grooves, and then you burn with a wire, move it over, and do that, and then you ink it in. But you see, I mean, this is just a ball with some color on it. But, I mean, you know, it has some character to it. And if you were to do something like that, for instance, on the lid of something, like you'd cut half of it and put it on the lid of something. I mean, it would just pop the thing out. So there are a lot of things that you can do, and a lot of ways that you can, you know, put color, add an image to something like this. Most of the other stuff involving basket weaving, basket design, illusion, is basically to come up with something that you normally would see in a basket. So I think that's the other part of it. You have to come up with something that's believable. The eye will look at it and it says, "Oh, okay. I mean, it's a basket." You know, if you do something too wild, it may not go too far. You know, but I've done some crazy things too on baskets. I mean, I've put flowers in there. Here, on this one right here, I have roses put in there. Instead of having a complete design, I just took two colors and I did every other square so that it's uniform all the way inside. But then I put the roses in it so that the roses really pop out. Looks like somebody just threw some roses in there, you know. So yeah.
So all the colors are done with different pens?
Yes.
Even on that ball?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. It's all done. It's all done with basically this type of pen. And the reason why I mentioned to use those is because the variety of color is really unbelievable. It's right there on the table. See, I just have a few here. I mean, you got colors coming out of here. This is artist selection, so that you know you really can go to town on it, and you can do variation of it. You can take a light green, a little darker green, and you can really do a lot with this. And this design, this kind of format, really lends itself pretty well. Remember when we were talking about screwing up and doing things? Here are a few choices of things not to do. Once you pick your design, you got to do something with it. I mean, you got to make it, you know, plausible. Here, the colors are too close. I mean, you know, you'll have no separation. And then, obviously, I didn't do it slow. I did it fast so that, you know, the lines are not good. You try to do a little bit better. Even if you change colors, you still have to have separation. You still have to allow the colors to show up. So there is a little balance that you got to come up by mixing colors on it. And that's why some of the proven designs, you know, that have been done for years are that way, because they're just successful. You know, they just look good and they're pleasant. So, and here, this is a typical situation. Now, if you look at this, can you tell what is happening to this? Can you tell that this thing is look like it's
Right, it's not perpendicular.
Exactly.
Right.
So what happened here is this was caught in here. This was loose. And I started doing it, and all of a sudden, you know, a little bit here, a little bit there. By the time I got to the other side, then I
So
went.
it wasn't at the center, right? It was.
Well, no,
It
it only was not the center. It just started dropping.
Oh, while you were
Just-
doing.
Yeah. See what happened? What happened when it dropped? See, I'm just going to put something in there to make it look like, you know. But basically, it's here. All of a sudden, it doesn't match.
Right.
See, it doesn't. So
Frank, could you show that this way?
yeah. So basically, yeah, you can tell by looking at it this way. There you go. See, here you're up here, and you see that that's not matching. It's not. This part right here is not matching. I just doctored it up. So you can have any little things that happen. You know, by the time you go 90 times around all the way, you know, it just throws everything off.
Would you
So
pass that around?
sure. And you can look at the outside and you can tell, what's up. Now, geometric things like that, when you play around with stuff like that, chaotic things, so what you want. You want to create all kinds of commotion, and just anything works on this, and then it's just a matter of choosing the colors that are contrasting as much as possible. But I think something like this is unique. Something like it's a typical sphere, but all of a sudden it looks a little different. It has a. This right here is basically using the same technique all the way across, but using a smaller bead. Now, every time you go to a smaller bead, and you make as many separations as I did, you're asking for trouble. I mean, because it's difficult to fill in and stay within the line. But the effect is good. If you can carry it through, it's good. Now, this design right here the intention was to create the face. If you look at it, you see the face right there. And if you turn it around, it keeps moving around. There's a face. Every tube, there is one face. Even in between, So and that's something that, you work on paper first and see if it comes out. That's why it's important, I think, to lay it out, to have it laid out.
Will that indexing wheel accommodate any number you want on a bow?
It's a set number of things on it. Let's see what you had. I think it's, let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines, and it goes anywhere from 48 all the way to 195. So each line will give you, further out you have many more, and further in you have less. Now, if you were not to have the index wheel, you could take, especially if you do experiment, or if you do something like this, for instance, if you do a section on only, so you don't have to worry about the whole thing, you could technically measure the outside diameter when you finish, and then say, okay, I want to do this particular design, and I need to repeat every 5 or every 7 or every find a number of sections that can be divided by that, and then you just mark it. You just take a compass and you just mark it, and you'll come out all right. It'll take you 3 times as long, but it can be done. You don't have to have one of these necessarily.
That depends on how wide you want the segment to be.
The design will tell you.
Right.
If you take something simple like this that you repeat every now and then, repeat it all the way through, you got something this size, and if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you have 10. So I picked 90 sections. So I'm going to come around and I'm going to meet myself over here at the same time on the other side. And that's all you really have to do. Now, from bottom to top, the same thing. I mean, you just put as many grooves as you need. In here, I just, instead of putting 1 line on top, I put 2 because I had, more lines that because I thought I wanted a little bit more, the band a little bit larger. So I just took two lines up on top and 2 lines on the bottom, and then what was left, gave me the right amount, spacing for one, and meet all the way through. But that, again, has to be done ahead of time. You got to be thinking that through, and you got to, make it happen. You can tell if you can use pretty much any wood, but you really can tell a difference in a bead. Some wood just don't cut as well. Number one, they split. And even though you're covering the thing with paint on it, with magic, you're still going to see it. And the better the surface is going to be, and the better you're going to have the design show up. And you don't have to stay to traditional designs. You can come up with your own concept on it. And you can do colors the same way. I mean, you can combine colors nicely on it. And I just have been adding this thread, and I've been doing it because I think it does, when you touch it, when you feel that thread in there, and it kind of completes the illusion, that this is the actual basket. And I'll tell you, I've had that happen quite often where people come up to I go do some sales. I don't do too many of them, but I do some sales. And we were at Barrington at the Art in the Barn, and there were some ladies that, and I said, "Oh, we got baskets," and they moved away. And I says, "Those are not baskets," Went back, and touched it, and all of a sudden got interested in it. But they thought it was a basket. And I do the same thing. I make roses, and I make the rose holder is pretty nice. I mean, I must say it's come out pretty good after making a couple of hundreds of them. I'm starting to do it right now. And people love them. I mean, they look at that thing, and all of a sudden I tell them, the rose is wood too. It's all wood. So, you got it when people think that that's a real rose.
Wow.
Yeah. So there are ways to do things that gives you a uniqueness. Make your work a little bit unique, and I think you should be looking for it. And this is a good opportunity for that, I think.
Your design here, so I noticed you got holes on the top line.
Yes, that's
So
what
you're planning on doing it all the way through, or
No,
just that top
no,
line?
just the top line. I found it. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
right
what
up. Oh, okay.
that's what I'm going to thread it. Like this one right here. See that top part? Yeah.
Right. Okay, so
That's
I'll
what
put a thread line.
Yeah, that's it gives kind of.
Pass that one around.
Yes. Yes.
But again, as we talked in the beginning, if you don't have the patience, or if you don't enjoy this kind of work, don't even start it, because it aggravates the heck out of you.
Yeah.
And it's very, very possible that you've done something like this, and all of a sudden you realize that you did a mistake way back there.
Yes.
So there are some disappointments that will be part of that work. But mostly, if you're not if you're not satisfied by this kind of work, it's fine. Just go to something else. I mean, don't. This requires dedication. It requires. Just think about it. Just to do a little piece like this, but it takes visualize that you're going to do something of this size. It's going to take you some time. You have some hours invested into something like that. But I think you can't beat it for an accent. To a bowl or to a vase.
Sure.
I think it's very unique. I don't know if I covered everything, but any questions? Anything that?
I see your baseball there.
That is.
Hmm?
Your baseball.
What about? Yeah. Well, what I've done with the baseballs is there are two things that I like to do. Spheres are one of my favorite things to do, and I make spheres this large, and I make them segmented too now. I make 12-inch segmented spheres. But I started doing the baseball, and I started out like everybody else is, making burn marks on it, and it looks pretty good, with the stitches and everything. But I decided that I was going to bring it up to a next level. So what I do is I do the seam line first, and I have a tool that I've put together in order to make that. I do it with a pencil, so it's pretty perfect, all the time. It locks in and it does it. Then after that, I take a high-speed cutter, a little tool, a burr, and I cut a little groove where I did the stitch line. And then I have punches, like leather punches, to make punches on leather, that I made to make a mark where the stitch thread is going to be. So I have one for the center one, and then I have one that does the two outside. And I go all the way around, 102 times. Then I take the little cutter that I use to make the little groove on it. I go from the hole on the side to things, so I create a little bit of a valley, like this, so that the thread fits in there. And then I take 1.5 inches of thread that I dye, particularly to this color. And I have a tool that I made. I push it right in the middle hole, push it into, when I pull the tool out, the thread is in there. And I take a tweezer and I feed the two ends into the holes. And I go all the way around. I usually do about 25 of these at a time. I can make the ball in about 15 minutes, finished. It takes me 1.5 hours to do the rest of it, even though I've been doing it quite a bit now. But the effect, it's you can feel this is actually feels like a ball. You got a thread on it, you probably felt it before.
So each one of these is a separate piece of
Yeah, thread.
string? Thread.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. I mean, you really can't. If you make a mistake, you make a mistake. But if you enjoy being precise and doing something, this is right up your alley, because it kind of forces you to be precise on it to have. But the effect is good. I mean, you can really see what comes out of it. It's a good way to add color to your work, I think.
Thank you very much, Frank.
You're welcome. Pleasure.